Okay, let's dive in. We've all seen the notes you sent over about the future of work, and well, it feels like just yesterday we were all settling into that hybrid groove, didn't it?
It really did. That flexibility seemed like the new normal.
Exactly. But the data you've shared, it suggests something else entirely. That flexibility, it seems like it's being pulled back. Pretty aggressively, actually, like a remote work crackdown.
Yeah, I'd say crackdown is fair, but maybe it's even deeper than that. It feels like a fundamental breakdown of trust, really,
Hmm.
all kind of disguised as this debate about company culture.
Hmm.
Because while everyone's talking about, how many days in the office, the real tension, the thing bubbling under the surface, is that a lot of leaders are actually aiming for a full mandatory return.
And that headline number from the Resume Builder survey you highlighted, wow, it's pretty jarring.
It is.
We're not talking about just a few companies here and there. It's 3 in 10 companies looking to phase out or just straight up ban remote work by 2026.
3 in 10, that's almost a third.
A third. Basically preparing to, pull the rug out from under their remote folks.
Totally. So our mission today really is to dig into these sources you've gathered. Let's try and unpack the real reasons, the stated ones anyway, behind these tougher return-to-office policies, RTO as people call them.
Right, the RTO mandates.
And maybe even more crucial, we need to look at the pushback, the resistance from employees that could seriously derail these plans, maybe even turn it into like an employee rebellion.
Okay, let's start with the scope then. What are companies actually asking for right now? Because even that word hybrid feels, well, pretty strict these days.
Yeah, rigid is definitely the word. The 2025 data confirms it. It's not vague. We're seeing really clear requirements already.
Like what specifically?
Okay, so get this. 28% of the companies they surveyed, they mandate 3 days a week, physically in the office.
Okay, 3 days. That's already quite a bit.
Then another 13% mandate 4 days.
4?
And then you have another 28%, same number as the 3-day group, who've just said, nope, everyone back, 5 days a week.
5 days. Back to the old grind completely.
So if you just add those up quickly,
Yeah.
what is that? 28 plus 13 plus 28. It's well over 2/3, pushing towards 70%.
Yeah, 69%.
Right. Almost 70% of the workforce is already facing at least 3 mandatory days in the office. So that whole idea of a really fluid, flexible hybrid time, it's kind of already gone for most people, replaced by something much stricter.
And it doesn't sound like this is where it stops either, right? The forecast for 2026 suggests this trend is just picking up steam.
Exactly. It's accelerating. Lots of office workers should probably brace for even tighter rules next year, not looser ones.
Mm.
The survey found 13% of business leaders plan to increase mandatory office days next year. Compare that to only 5% who plan to reduce them.
That's a big difference. 13% adding days versus 5% reducing.
It really underscores this wider commitment, this industry push towards making these mandates even tougher.
So the direction is clear. Back towards the traditional office, almost regardless of how well people have been working remotely. Which brings us to the big question. Why? What's driving this push from management right now?
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Mm.
If you look at the reasons they give, the main ones cited for making people come in more,
Yeah.
they fall into a few buckets.
Such as?
Top one is strengthening corporate culture. 64% said that. Then improving productivity. That's 62%. And making better use of the office space they're paying for, that's 45%.
Okay, culture, productivity, office space. Those sound like the standard corporate answers, the responsible sounding ones.
Pretty much, yeah.
But there was something else in the sources, wasn't there? Something kind of buried. And frankly, a bit disturbing.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was. And this is where RTO maybe stops being about culture and starts looking like a calculated tactic.
How so?
A small group, but still significant 8% of companies actually admitted it. They admitted the goal of these strict policies is to pressure employees into resigning.
Whoa. Wait, so they're saying the quiet part out loud.
Some are, yeah, 8%.
So it's not just about team spirit or whatever. It's being used as a tool to get people to quit.
Yeah.
Like a layoff without calling it a layoff.
Exactly. Stealth layoffs, maybe?
That just completely changes the conversation about trust, doesn't it? It suggests management might be deliberately using this policy to cut headcount without severance costs.
Ouch. Precisely. It's an explicit workforce reduction strategy for some. And, just to quickly contrast, the companies that are still expanding hybrid work, their reasons are totally different.
Right, what are they saying?
Things like employee satisfaction, that's 55%.
Yeah.
Employee well-being, 53%. and keeping people, retention, 49%.
So one side is focused on keeping people happy and healthy. The other is focused on, well, control, using the office space, and sometimes even pushing people out. Weaponized utilization almost.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it?
Yeah. And this connects to what experts like Stacey Haller from Resume Builder are saying, right? She argues a lot of leaders are pushing RTO not based on solid data, but more out of old habits, or maybe pressure from their own bosses.
Exactly. She talks about the visibility trap, this idea that executives often just equate seeing people at their desks with actual work getting done.
Right. If I can see you, you must be working.
Kind of. And they worry about losing that intangible culture or collaboration they think only happens when everyone's breathing the same recycled air.
It's like needing to constantly check if someone's wearing their seatbelt, even though they've proven they're a perfectly safe driver on their own.
That's a good analogy. And Haller's point, her counterargument, is really important. The research just doesn't back it up. More time in the office doesn't automatically mean better productivity or stronger culture.
Okay, but hang on. Practically speaking, if you're a CEO and you've got these massive, expensive office buildings,
Yeah, the real estate piece is huge.
how do you really buy into the idea that culture can thrive outside that building? Isn't the pressure to just fill the seats always going to win?
That pressure is definitely immense. You can't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
But the data, and what Haller argues, is that real effective culture isn't about physical proximity. It's built on things like intentional communication, feeling included, and fundamentally trust.
Trust, right?
And forcing people back, especially if they don't see a good reason for it, can actually damage engagement because it sends a signal of distrust. It says, we don't trust you to work unless we watch you.
Hmm.
The modern way, the better hybrid models, they focus on what she calls meaningful presence, getting together for specific reasons, collaboration, connection, not just for the sake of being there. Autonomy actually drives culture more than just showing up.
Okay, so if management is pushing these demands based on, let's say, questionable or outdated ideas, like Yaller suggests, that sets up this huge clash with employees who know they're productive at home. Let's look at that gap then, the resistance. Because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Where policy hits reality.
Absolutely. And the employee resistance numbers are, well, they represent a massive risk for companies. That Flex Jobs report you shared, it found 76%, three-quarters of workers said they'd start looking for a new job if their remote options were taken away.
Wait, say that again, 76%.
76% would rather face the job market than go back 5 days a week.
That's huge. That shows a level of conviction that, I agree, management seems to be totally underestimating. The potential turnover is just staggering.
And it's not just a hypothetical threat either. It's happening now. In that same survey, 27% more than a quarter said they know someone who has already quit or is planning to, specifically because of stricter RTO policies.
Wow. So it's an active retention crisis bubbling up.
Definitely.
And all this resistance, it leads straight to the enforcement problem, doesn't it? Nick Bloom, the researcher who studies this stuff a lot.
Yeah, Bloom's work is key here.
He points out that companies are actually having a really hard time getting people to follow these rules. They make these big announcements, but employees, well, they're just not showing up as much as they're told to.
It's systemic non-compliance, basically.
Yeah.
Which leads to a really interesting point about the bottleneck in this whole system. The middle managers.
Ah, right. The manager's stuck in the middle.
Exactly. Think about it. How are most managers judged? On their team's results, right? Their performance, the deliverables.
Sure, their output.
So if their team is hitting its goals, performing really well while working remotely, a lot of these managers are kind of looking through their fingers, as Bloom puts it. They're basically ignoring the stricter mandates coming from the top brass.
Because enforcing it might actually hurt their team's performance.
Precisely. They're running a kind of silent shadow policy, a sort of don't ask, don't tell approach to RTO. Because for them, performance is what matters. They don't see the upside in rocking the boat, upsetting their team, possibly losing good people, just to enforce a rule they might not even agree with.
So it becomes this very practical choice for the manager. Do I follow the CEO's strict rule and risk my team's performance and morale, maybe lose people? Or do I prioritize what's actually getting the job done and quietly let the flexibility continue?
And it seems, for many, effectiveness is winning out over strict enforcement.
Quietly.
That quiet win for employees. It makes Stacey Haller's warning about the future even more pointed, though.
Yeah, her point about the labor market is crucial.
She warns that if hiring slows down or if there are more layoffs in, say, 2026, people might comply with strict RTO then, out of fear, basically.
Sure, short-term compliance due to economic pressure.
But that dissatisfaction, that resentment, it doesn't just vanish, it gets banked. And the minute the job market picks up again,
Poof, turnover will spike. People will walk out the door at the first opportunity, taking that resentment with them.
okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What we're seeing is leadership seems driven by this need for control, for visibility, for using their expensive buildings, and in some cases, even admitting they want to push people out.
Yeah, that 8% is chilling. And that's clashing head-on with a workforce that knows it can be productive remotely and is demanding that autonomy. The result, a huge trust gap. Policies that are becoming harder and harder to actually enforce.
It really is the ultimate standoff, isn't it? And it fundamentally shifts the power dynamic within the workplace, or maybe reveals the dynamic that was always there, which leads you, the listener, with a really interesting, maybe challenging final thought to chew on.
Okay, what's that?
Well, if the data shows, and your own experience might confirm, that your direct manager is already kind of quietly prioritizing your team's actual results over whether you're physically at your desk, if they're already struggling to enforce these top-down mandates,
Yeah.
then the question for you isn't just, should I follow the rule anymore, is it?
What is it then?
Maybe the real question is, how do you navigate or even leverage this silent shift, this gap between official policy and on-the-ground reality? How do you use that to secure the autonomy you need in the long run, regardless of what the executives upstairs are decreeing?